Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open one of the Bible's biggest mysteries. You see, tucked away in the first few pages of the book of Revelation are 7 ancient letters. But what if they're not just letters? What if they're actually a hidden map of history itself? Okay, let's just dive right into this. We are looking at the 7 letters to the 7 churches in Revelation. Now, on the surface, sure, they look like messages to specific, real communities from a long time ago. But what if there's something much, much bigger going on here? So, these letters were sent to actual, real churches in what we now call modern-day Turkey. And let me tell you, they are packed with some of the most intense language you will find anywhere. We're talking cryptic warnings and just incredible promises. To each one of these 7 churches, the resurrected Jesus gives a direct message. You can almost think of it like a spiritual report card, you know? There are high praises for their strengths, but also some really stern warnings about their weaknesses. Basically, they're told to shape up or else. And the language is just so intense, so symbolic. He tells one church he's going to make war against them, another he'll literally vomit out of his mouth. It's a lot. And all this intensity really begs the question, is there some kind of deeper structure connecting all these messages? Is there a hidden key? So, where do we even begin to look for the key to this puzzle? Well, the theory we're exploring today says that we need to look backward, way back into the history of the Old Testament. Okay, so here is the crucial point. The letters aren't random at all. They're actually structured to follow a really precise historical sequence. They create this miniature history of the entire world before Christ. The whole story, from Adam all the way to the apostasy in Jesus' day, is being summed up and judged. And here is that map. This theory lays out 7 key eras of Old Testament history. It kicks off with Eden, and it ends with the state of Jerusalem in the 1st century. The big idea here is that each of those 7 letters corresponds perfectly to one of these distinct periods. All right, now for the amazing part. When we lay these 7 letters over this historical map, the little details, the specific symbols, the warnings, even the promises, they start to click into place in this absolutely incredible way. Let's start with the first one, the letter to Ephesus. It is just filled with echoes of the Garden of Eden. Jesus is described walking among the lampstands, which sounds a lot like God walking in the cool of the day, right? The church is called out for leaving its first love, a pretty clear parallel to Adam's fall. And the reward for getting it right? Access to the tree of life. I mean, the connections to Genesis are just undeniable. Next up, we have Smyrna, which lines up with the age of the patriarchs. So get this. Jesus introduces himself as the one who was dead and is alive. That is a perfect description of Joseph, who was thrown in a pit, left for dead, before rising to rule all of Egypt. And, just like the patriarchs, this church is praised for its endurance through some really intense suffering. The letter to Pergamum? It takes us straight into the wilderness with Moses. The faithful are promised hidden manna, and the church is warned about Balaamites, a direct reference to the prophet who tried to curse Israel. You really can't get much more direct than that. Thyatira's letter points right to the era of Israel's monarchy. Its main problem is this false prophetess who is symbolically named Jezebel. Sound familiar? It recalls the wicked queen who corrupted Israel. And the promise to the faithful? Authority over the nations, echoing the reign of King David himself. Then we get to Sardis, a church that's basically on the brink of spiritual death. Listen to this description. You have a name that you are alive, but you are dead. Wow. It is a haunting echo of the kingdom's collapse into exile, where, just like the prophet Jeremiah warned, only a tiny faithful remnant was left. But then, the fateful Church of Philadelphia mirrors the hopeful era of restoration. They're promised an open door, which brings to mind that moment the Persian king Cyrus literally opened the door for the Jewish exiles to go back and rebuild their nation under leaders like Ezra and Nehemiah. And finally, we have the lukewarm Church of Laodicea. This one represents the final period of Old Covenant history, the widespread apostasy of Jerusalem's leadership leading up to the time of Jesus. Their compromised, totally self-satisfied state is threatened with being vomited out, language pulled directly from the book of Leviticus for covenant unfaithfulness. So why does all this matter? I mean, why would you embed a whole history of the Old Testament into these letters? Well, this is not just some clever literary puzzle. It actually reveals a really profound message about judgment, about history, and about the church's purpose. And check this out. There's another layer of genius to this whole thing. The letters are arranged in a mirrored pattern. Just look at it. The first and last churches, they both struggle with being lax. The second and sixth are both praised for their faithfulness, and the three in the middle show this steady decline into corruption. This is not random, it is a beautifully deliberate design. So what's the ultimate point of this whole historical tour? It's a massive object lesson. The message is crystal clear. The story of the Old Covenant is coming to a close. And it's a warning. Learn from the mistakes of the past, where you're going to face the consequences, just like Jerusalem was about to.
You know, this historical pattern isn't just some academic exercise. It is designed to be a practical tool. A church today could use it as a kind of diagnostic guide to see which historical stage it mirrors and then learn from that era's specific lessons to find a path forward. And that's really the final thought to leave you with. By seeing these 7 letters, not just as ancient mail, but as a map of history, the text becomes a kind of mirror. And it forces us to ask, if this pattern holds true, where do our own communities and our own lives fit into this epic story?